What is happening, y'all? Welcome on back. So we've switched up to the Argent Wolfblade, which is essentially just a straight up upgrade. I mean, we lose a little bit of defense, but we gain an extra 53 damage. So just, more damage on our wax to get back our focus. And aside from that, I do think my initial approach just wasn't right. I think I might be a lot better off kind of focusing right here. As you can see, we can get all of our elemental damage in. Damn, dude, that's the one thing that I cannot handle is that fucking blast, man. Shit's that thing. Space shift. Yeah, I don't even know how to avoid that, to be honest. It's just so much damage coming at you. I feel like it hits. Accidentally swapping my weapon out. That's how I get killed. All of the spells! Die! Whew! Whew, man. That got intense. Get it. Am I just calming? Am I calming the relics? Or am I taking them all into myself? There was that whole thing a while ago where Jack was like, hey, you can't, remember people holding relics are always viable to go frenzy. Oh, are we gonna, oh, okay, I see. We're gonna do it through the power of friendship.
私が何者であったとしても ぽの器でしかないとしても、この心の中に埋め尽くされたあなたとの大切な思い出が消えることはありません。
Power of waifus is gonna save the day.
私はいつでもそばにいます。あなたが私の心の中にいるように。ですからさようなら。
Wait, did she absorb it all instead? Hold up, what? What the fuck just happened? So those are all the, those are all the pieces, the relics. Yeah, if she takes all of them, isn't she gonna become queen? Isn't that how this works? Weren't they saying, you know, when all the relics come together? And what was the relic I had? I don't think it was ever explained. I mean, I skipped a lot of the stuff, but still wasn't explained what relic I've had. I mean, I'm assuming that's all of them. She took all the ones from Silva. She took mine. She's taken these. In theory, Queen should be reborn if all of the body pieces are brought back together, because that was the whole fucking reason they separated it. I forgot about her ass. I mean, all the attendants were essentially, like, creations of the queen to begin with, so kind of makes sense that she could be reborn into the queen, but I don't know. Now she's turning into a tree, and I guess she's gonna support the world or something. It's like the queen's wish is her you know, regrets are taking form, I guess. Sounds like a Disney song. Kind of looks like a person that's upside down coiled around a ball. Golden blood bead. It's going to cure all thirst for revenants so they can be happy vampires and live forever. You know, for a story that likes to super force explanation onto you, that was a little bit obscure. And everyone is back to normal.
ようやく血類の安定供給の体制が整ったわ。これもすべてイオのおかげね。彼女がすべての侵害を引き受けてくれた日、気がつくと私は元の姿に戻っていた。侵害の力を引き継いだイオは今も血類を生み出し、さらには赤い霧さえも維持してくれている。だから彼女が守るこの世界を少しでも当たり前の生活ができる場所にしたい、そう思ってるの。ようやく彼女しなくす。
今後はカレンと二人でレブナントたちの上をよくすぐ結果は出ないかもしれないけど、ルイも
侵害の暴走を止め、イオが血類の大樹へと返じてから数年。
Years after,
姉さんたちとの研究。
Karen and the others discovered a reliable source of blood leads into the question, what, as a revenant, can I do? The outside world was there. The outsider must appear there are countless cries for help. As revenants, we prey upon humanity. We might not bring them through misery, even so I can't just give up. In the years after Io stopped the relics from frenzying and transformed into the weeping tree. So is this, I mean, obviously this is in the future. All the power was sucked out of my body, I was big and strong, now look at me. Now Jack's training me to go stronger again. I was so close to her, even more apart. Documents from the Great Collapse, the more I read, the more I understand why these creatures are called horrors. New to the most powerful weapons, and immortal like the Lost and Plague, the Jail of the Mists. I understand why Revenants had to be created, the situation was dire. The horrors are still roaming the outside world, it must be incredibly difficult living there. Yeah, they're quite literally fucking origamis from God Eater. Relic's power created the Weeping Tree, thanks to Io's wish, and there's no sign of the Queen coming back. It must have taken a strong will. Ordinary revenants without the power of relics, but our mission still remains. As long as I live, I'll continue watching over that power together with Jack. Changing the Weeping Tree is normal, don't worry. If anything happens, I'll do everything in my power to stop it. My mission as a Watcher has ended, but my duty to protect the world remains.
この吐きだめみたいな場所もそのせいでとりあえず
イオからもらった琥珀色の血類はあれは
Use of her memory and manifestation of strength handled with care.
すべての侵害を引き若干だけど侵害の力に干渉
Is there, let me check my inventory. Is there actually like a bags. Okay. Down a bit here, although Louis is worried. Satisfied you earned some peace, why not enjoy it?
まだまだ人類生存権の脅威となるロストは多いが、シルバーを中心にようやく俺も本腰入れておっと臨時総督府は皆様の参加をお待ちしております。
今日はヤクモに一緒に臨時総督府で働くすまねえが、お前にやりたいことがあるように。まったく食いぶち目当てで戦っているうちにいつの間にかどっぷり所属することに。
Huh. Well, I mean, that was... I'd assume that was the final boss, but there's no credit roll. We're a couple years in the future. I mean, unless the real boss is all the way bottom of the depths. But there was the whole contact the provisional government thing. So let's go... So let's see. You were a thing, you were a thing, you were a thing. Who else was it? We were one. Let's see. Here, let me look at my episodes here. There was ribcage. Oh yeah, breath. So all the successors are back here. So the only person I haven't talked to... What the fuck? There's no Mistle. Want to leave base and depart out of the red mist? No, you'll be unable to return here? What? Is this like new game plus? I mean, there's no Mistle, so where else can I go? It's not like I can jump out and explore. Fuck it. I guess we'll find out what happens. It's not like I can do anything else. Unless this is the flag for starting New Game Plus, in which case that's pretty ham-fisted. The final boss take you back to the hub, but don't let you go anywhere, and then make you decide to watch a cutscene.
出ていくのか？外の世界へ。
まあやっぱそうなるよな。一人で行こうとしたところは感心しないが。
一言声をかけてくれたっていいのに。仲間でしょ、私たち。みんな前に進むことしか知らないんだから、背中を支えるサポート役が必要でしょ。
Giant ass back, dude. That's funny. It reminds me of How to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon. The little lolly support girl with the massive backpack.
外の世界で俺たちレブナントが歓迎されることはないのかもしれない。だが忘れてはいけないんだ。俺たちが何のために生み出されたのか。俺はクルスの意志を継ぐ。お前がイオの意志を継いだように。行こう。
God Eater 2, or Code Vein 2, Outside of the Red Mist. So with the game being done, let's jump into a review. Now I do want to note this is a post-recording review. Basically, after I beat the game and got the credit roll, I went back and added this review after the fact, having played a little bit more past this, just to have a more holistic review, I suppose you could say. I went and knocked out all of the end dungeons and whatnot, the stuff in the depths. So anyway, let's talk about the game. So first up, in terms of story, I think it was pretty good. Pretty much kind of your niche anime story, what you would expect. We had, you know, everyone kind of had someone close to them that was being affected in a pretty major way by what was going on. All the successors tied back into somebody, whether it was like a brother, a lover, a friend, etc. Um, so it wasn't a bad story, but it was definitely pretty standard anime trope. I think as someone who is a fan of anime, I think I ended up enjoying it quite a bit. But I think somebody that is not an anime fan will probably think it's kind of just crap. But at the same time, I mean, if you're playing this game, I feel like you're somebody that appreciates anime. If you don't like anime, I think this game in general is probably going to be a huge turnoff to you. So I think it was a good story for what it was. It wasn't breaking any new ground. It wasn't telling anything amazing. But I think it did a good job. And there were a couple parts that were pretty big shockers, like the revelation that Silva is essentially keeping everyone safe from what's going on in the outside world. All the stuff with Mito and how he kind of built up the experiments with the kids. And the one thing that I'm still curious about is the moment that the wall came down. I mean, if you've ever seen God Eater before, and this game is made by the same developers who made God Eater, that thing was 100% an origami. Like, there is no question in my mind. If you've seen the God Eater anime or you've played the games, you could take one look at that thing and you're like, what the hell's an origami doing here? And so it does raise the question of whether or not this is supposed to be tied in to the God Eater universe. And not to go too deep into the God Eater thing, but the basic idea there is there's like this cellular organism that they discovered that like Speedy evolved, and it essentially turned into these giant monstrosities that would just destroy everything. So humanity is basically living in shambles and just trying to survive. So there's definitely some kind of themes that tie that into Code Vein. You can see that there's obviously a lot of God Eater inspiration, and it makes sense because that's what the team's background is in. But that one scene with the big ass monster when the mist comes down, I'm really curious if this is supposed to be in the universe or if it's just kind of a nod to God Eater and their other work or what have you. So hopefully we'll find out more about that in the future. Anyway, moving on from the story into the gameplay. The gameplay is very much a mixed bag here, and all in all, I did have a lot of fun playing it. I did enjoy the game, and I think a big part of it is going into it with the right expectations, especially towards the start of the game. I was very much of the mind of like, oh yeah, this is a Souls like, this is anime Souls, and if you approach it from the mindset of it being a Souls like, I think you'll be disappointed because the combat isn't as tight. Um, it doesn't have the same oomph that you have in combat in a lot of Souls likes. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of folks are being put off from playing the demo. On the flip side, if you go into this just thinking, hey, this is an anime action RPG, I'm going to get a bunch of skills and fight a bunch of stuff, I think you'll have a lot of fun. Um, no expectations aside, there are some things I think that could have been greatly improved. The backstabs and the parries and whatnot were definitely not as tight as they should have been. I mean, there were a number of times you guys saw where I was trying to backstab an enemy and I'd essentially get behind it and swing my sword and get behind it and swing my sword. And it would take like 2 or 3 swings before I had the right positioning. And it was very inconsistent. There were times where I could go from enemy to enemy to enemy and constantly get these backstabs, and times where it would take 4 or 5 tries to get it on off. And especially given they delayed the game an additional year to polish it more, I feel like that could have been a lot better. Um, Aside from that jank, I did have fun with the combat, and kind of tying into the gameplay. I think one of the biggest things that made it enjoyable was the freedom in class design. In games like this, we are usually relegated to a single class. You're playing as a mage or a warrior or a dex or a quality, and being able to freely change your class essentially on demand by swapping out your skills and blood code, it was really nice. And it was something I really liked because, if I'm up against something and strength build's not working, I can swap over to mage. If mage isn't working, I can swap to a faster, more dodge oriented class. And having that freedom in switching up your approach, that's something we don't see a lot of in games. And I do think that was probably the biggest contributing factor in my enjoyment of the gameplay of Code Vein. So moving on into music and sound design, also another mixed bag. Um, the music was good, but it was severely limited. And I think one of the things that makes Souls likes so memorable is the soundtrack. You could listen to the Dark Souls soundtracks, and they're just masterpieces. And by comparison, I mean, I have like the same da, 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 ba, 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 ba. It's like the only song in every freaking boss battle, and that's all that's stuck in my head now. And I would have loved for them to mix it on up. I mean, the sound design overall I think was well done, but there just wasn't really enough. There wasn't really any variability in the music, and it got very samey after a while. And I think that was another very big weak point for this game. Um, so moving on into the world and kind of the environment and whatnot. Overall, I think they did a decent job. I thought the whole transitioning, how like you'd basically run through a tunnel for a minute and then you're suddenly at a new zone was terrible and a bad way to approach that. But the zones were distinct enough that I think it made them enjoyable, and you approached each zone kind of differently. You're like, oh, this is I'm just following this path around, or this zone has a bunch of different little turnoffs, and I always felt motivated to explore the zones, with the exception of the cathedral, which I think was just complete ass in design. It was way too repetitive. Everything was very samey. And I get that's kind of part of what they were going for. They wanted you to feel lost. But I didn't feel lost in the sense of I'm lost, I don't know where to go. It was more just like this place is boring and I don't want to be here anymore. Can we please get to the boss and end it? Because everything looks exactly the same and it's just tiring to stare at. Um, so another area where I really think there could have been improvement. Um, I haven't had a chance to do any co-op. I did back in the beta, and there weren't any issues with the co-op. Was fine, so I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt there. In terms of overall polish in regards to like bugginess and whatnot, I think they actually did a pretty good job. We had that one crash early on, back in like I think episode 6 or 7. Besides that, there weren't any real technical issues that occurred. No hard crashes, no quests got bugged, nothing like that. So I do got to give them credit there. Usually in games of this scale, there's a lot more goofy shit that goes down. So at least that was not a drawback. Um, so all in all, I mean, it's so hard to really give this a solid score because it was an enjoyable game, but it definitely had flaws. I think at the end of the day, I'd probably come down to like a 7 out of 10, mainly because of the things that I was really hoping would be better. And I know I keep going back to this, but especially the fact that they put the game off for an extra year to polish it. And I can't help but wonder what this game would have looked like if it had released a year ago. Because even now, looking at it, there's still a lot of things that I think severely lack polish. And that the three biggest points of contention for me were obviously the jankiness and the inconsistency in the combat, the lack of adequate variety in music, and I mean even to an extent enemy variety. A lot of enemies were very much just kind of reskinned variants of themselves, and I think part of it, like I kind of ignored it because of the spammy oriented style of the gameplay, but that's definitely an area of weakness. I want different enemies. I don't want to fight this thing that looks like a giant monster, and then the next area I'm fighting the same giant monster, but it's green. That's not good. Give me something else to fight. And there was there was a lot of that going on. So all in all, I do think it was an enjoyable experience, albeit a flawed one at that. So I think I'll settle out on a 7 out of 10. Um, Moving on from here, though, I do have plans to put the walkthrough together for the game. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about the 100% walkthrough, and as of now, I've already started production on that. In fact, it may already have parts up by the time you all see this, but that is going to be a story for a different time. So This is obviously post commentary, so a couple things I'm going to touch on that you see right here. We get the Hades blood code after we beat the boss, and one thing that I missed in the first run that I was able to go back and get, there's another blood code you can get that's just called Queen, and all you have to do is finish restoring all of the Eos vestiges. So the one I missed was back at the throat boss. Essentially, you go back there, you just pick it on up, and then go to Io and restore it, and then you'll end up getting both Hades and Queen after beating the final boss. We did get the good ending, which is nice. Apparently, there's 2 other endings to the game. One which requires you fighting and not restoring the memories of the successors, and then the other, which is based around like restoring the memory of one and kind of skipping the others. But the game does have New Game Plus, as you can see here. What's actually pretty nice is after the game, it just deposits you right back in the World Hub. You can freely explore the world as you want, and then whenever you're ready, you actually manually start a New Game Plus, which is always something that's good to see, in my opinion. So either way, guys, we're going to wrap this one on up here. Definitely had a good time, despite all the flaws it had, and I will see you all with the walkthrough.